As millions watched on television, the red Soviet flag above the Kremlin was lowered for the last time. For nearly 70 years, the Soviet Union had been one of the most powerful nations on Earth. It possessed the world's largest territory, thousands of nuclear weapons, and influence stretching across Europe, Asia, Africa, and Latin America. It had defeated Nazi Germany, launched the first satellite into space, and sent the first human into orbit. Yet despite all this power, the Soviet Union collapsed without a foreign invasion, without a world war, and without a decisive military defeat. How could a nation that appeared so strong suddenly disappear? To understand its collapse, we must first understand how it was born. At the beginning of the 20th century, Russia was ruled by Nicholas II. The Russian Empire was enormous, stretching from Eastern Europe to the Pacific Ocean. However, beneath the surface, serious problems were growing. Most Russians were poor farmers. Industrial workers faced difficult conditions. Political freedoms were limited, and dissatisfaction with the government was widespread. Then came World War I. The war exposed the weaknesses of the empire. Millions of soldiers died. Food shortages became severe, and public anger intensified. In 1917, protests erupted in the capital city of Petrograd. The monarchy collapsed, ending more than 3 centuries of Romanov rule. But removing the Tsar did not solve Russia's problems. Later that year, a revolutionary movement led by Vladimir Lenin seized power. The Bolsheviks promised peace, land, and bread. Instead, the country descended into a brutal civil war. For several years, communist forces fought against their opponents across the vast territory of Russia. By 1922, the Bolsheviks emerged victorious and officially created the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, or USSR. A new era had begun. When Lenin died in 1924, a struggle for leadership began. Eventually, Joseph Stalin gained control. Stalin believed the Soviet Union needed to industrialize rapidly if it hoped to survive in a hostile world. Factories appeared across the country. Massive steel plants were constructed. Railroads expanded. Entire cities were built around industrial production. Within a few decades, the Soviet Union transformed from a largely agricultural society into one of the world's largest industrial powers. However, this transformation came at a terrible human cost. Millions of farmers were forced into collective farms. Many resisted. The government responded harshly. Political opponents were imprisoned, exiled, or executed. The period became known as the Great Purge. Fear spread throughout society. Despite these tragedies, industrial growth continued. By the late 1930s, the Soviet Union had become one of the strongest military and industrial powers in the world. These developments would soon be tested by war. On June 22, 1941, Nazi Germany launched a massive invasion of the Soviet Union. The attack shocked the Soviet leadership. German forces advanced rapidly, capturing huge territories. Entire cities were destroyed. Millions of civilians fled eastward. The Soviet people faced one of the darkest periods in their history, but they refused to surrender. Factories were dismantled and moved thousands of kilometers away from the front lines. Workers produced tanks, aircraft, and weapons around the clock. One of the most important battles occurred at the Battle of Stalingrad. The fighting lasted for months. Buildings became battlefields. Entire neighborhoods were reduced to rubble. When the battle finally ended, Germany had suffered a devastating defeat. The tide of the war had turned. By 1945, Soviet forces entered Berlin.
30 апреля. Захвачены главные районы столицы Германии.
Nazi Germany surrendered. The Soviet Union had paid an enormous price, losing tens of millions of people, but it emerged victorious and more powerful than ever before. After World War II, the Soviet Union and the United States became the world's two dominant superpowers. Their political systems were fundamentally different. The United States promoted capitalism and democratic institutions. The Soviet Union promoted communism and a centrally planned economy. Neither side trusted the other. This rivalry became known as the Cold War. The world entered an era of nuclear competition. Both nations built massive arsenals capable of destroying civilization. The Soviet Union established influence throughout Eastern Europe. Meanwhile, the United States formed military alliances to contain Soviet expansion. Although direct war never occurred between the two superpowers, conflicts emerged around the world. Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Africa, Latin America. The Cold War affected nearly every corner of the globe. While military competition intensified, another contest captured humanity's imagination: the space race. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1 launch. The tiny satellite sent shockwaves around the world. For the first time, an object created by humans orbited Earth. Then came an even greater achievement. In 1961, Yuri Gagarin became the first person to travel into space. His successful mission made him an international hero. For many people, these accomplishments demonstrated the technological strength of the Soviet system. The USSR appeared unstoppable. Yet beneath the surface, problems were growing. By the 1970s and early 1980s, economic growth had largely stagnated. The Soviet leadership recognized that reform was becoming unavoidable. In 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev became the new leader. He inherited a country facing serious economic and political challenges. To solve these problems, he introduced major reforms. Perestroika aimed to restructure the economy. Glasnost encouraged greater openness and freedom of discussion. For the first time, citizens could openly criticize aspects of the government. But reforms produced unintended consequences. People demanded more freedom. Nationalist movements grew stronger. Several Soviet republics began calling for independence. The Soviet Union was becoming increasingly difficult to hold together. In August 1991, hardline communist officials attempted a coup against Gorbachev. The coup failed, but it fatally weakened the Soviet government. Across the USSR, republics accelerated their moves toward independence. The Union was unraveling. On December 25, 1991, Gorbachev resigned. The following day, the Soviet Union officially ceased to exist. 15 independent nations emerged from its territory. The largest was Russia. One of history's greatest superpowers had disappeared.